Okay, with that, I welcome the host of our next panel on stage. So I've had the chance to spend a little bit of time with her over the last few days, and I was very impressed. So Michelle Messina, who is hosting our next panel, is one of the top Silicon Valley experts and a serial entrepreneur who not only started but actually sold her first companies with 19 years of age. And she's also written her new book, you're coming from there, Decoding Silicon Valley, The Insider's Guide. I thought that everybody's coming from the front, so I was not sure where you come from. But thank you so much for making it from Silicon Valley to us in Cluj.
Thank you.
You've been very supportive of the ecosystem. We've been able to get your advice not only at this conference, but also at satellite events. So thank you very much for coming all the way. I really appreciate it. I know you have a keen interest in emerging ecosystems. So your job is to make Michelle invest here in Cluj in the future and start some projects here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I have my panelists come out? So we kind of have the United Nations of panelists here today, and it's really an honor and a pleasure to bring investors from different places in the world. Ruta, you're originally from Lithuania, from Vilnius, and you're based in Boston. David, you're originally from New York. Is originally from Israel, now in New York. Luke? From Australia, now based in London. And David?
I'm originally from Prague and based in Prague.
Very cool. Well, why don't we start with you, David, and you can give a little bit of 1-minute introduction about what you're doing and just share a little bit about what your investment thesis is and what you're doing here in Romania.
Okay, hi guys. I'm Ondrej. I run a VC firm based in Prague, investing in Central Europe. I started coming over to Romania back in 2006, I think. I've made 3 investments so far. The first one was called Brainient, and it was acquired in 2016 by a company called Teats, the largest video ad network in the world. My second investment is called UiPath, and you've heard some things about UiPath before. So I invested in UiPath in 2015 in a seed round. And I'm a happy investor now, I guess. My third investment is called DCS Plus, and it's in travel tech. So I like awesome companies. I have invested 3 times in Romania, 3 times in Bucharest. So, I'm waiting for my first investment in Cluj.
Excellent. Luke, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name's Luke, I'm from ComplyAdvantage. We build anti-money laundering, counter-terrorism financing, anti-corruption products and solutions. We came to Romania a bit over 2 years ago and made a decision and a commitment to build the majority of our product based in Cluj. From that stage of 2 years ago of running out of an empty office with cardboard boxes, we're now at a team of 40 and looking to grow that quite significantly.
Thank you.
My name is David Kashak. I'm the founder and CEO of Connatix. Connatix is an online video platform that's being used around the world by more than 3,000 publishers. Publishers like Mashable, Time Inc., ESPN are using our platform on a daily basis. And what's beautiful about this technology is that this technology was started here in Cluj. It's been developed from the ground up, end to end. Here we have our development and innovation center in the city. More than 40 employees. We are planning to double it by the end of next year. So it's something that this city should be very proud of, building a world-class company right out of here.
Thank you. And Ruta?
Ruta Laukien. I lived for many years in the US now. I spent most of my career in investment banking, but throughout that whole time I was always watching the Baltics and Eastern Europe. I always thought there would be a lot of opportunities coming up, and I've kind of been watching it for the last 10 years, and really I finally feel like there's a critical mass of interesting opportunities and innovation. So this year we decided to formally raise a fund, a venture fund focused mainly on the Baltics as well as Eastern Europe, and we say Eastern Europe, it's more kind of the less maybe focused countries, kind of like Romania, Bulgaria, where I think it's not on the radar screen of a lot of, especially funds out of the US, but even out of Western Europe. And we'll be raising $50 million and focus mainly on healthcare and technology.
Great. So the Prime Minister of Romania, the former Prime Minister and the current Mayor of Cluj said this is a great place for startup investment, for VC investment. Do you guys concur? And if you do, why? And if you disagree, when might Romania be a good place to invest? And what needs to change?
I can start.
Jump in.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I'm not an investor. I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm a founder of a company. So my goal is not to make my money grow. My goal is to build a company, to solve problems, and in order to do that, I believe that you need to invest in the talent and make sure that they have everything they need in order to succeed. And when you do that, you get in return creativity, innovation, and that's what we've been doing. And Cluj is the perfect city to do that. I definitely agree with the mayor on that. You find here like such an amazing young talent, and I think that was one of the successes of our company.
Any disagreements? Agreements?
I mean, I'd say it's on the cusp, but definitely very interesting opportunities coming out of here. I think there's a lot of innovation and more innovation starting. I would say maybe there's a bit of a lack of still business experience, and it is, in a lot of ways, it is a new country. The innovation is a new here. So, for example, us as an investors, the fund will be very hands-on, and I think what we bring is the mentorship and the advisors and talent from other countries and experience. So I think there's a lot of innovation, but needs to maybe be mentored and sort of guided.
Okay.
I'm a great fan of technical talent of Romania and Central and Eastern Europe in general. So I believe for venture capital, it's a great place to invest. And it's a great place where we can find awesome teams working on awesome startups. With regard to legal system or tax system, it's not a perfect place to invest, quite frankly. So, when we invest in Romanian startups, what we typically do is we incorporate them outside of Romania. Just because it's easier and more transparent and more standard. The enforceability of law is still fairly low, so those things I believe should change. But there are no shortcuts, and I believe that Romania will get there.
So what countries are you choosing to incorporate in? What are some of the ways you're bypassing the rule
basically,
of law?
we're typically selecting a very standard jurisdiction, being it the US, the UK, the Netherlands, the flexible, standard, transparent jurisdictions.
Okay. Luke, you were going to say something.
Yeah, so I think Romania and Cluj is a fantastic place to build a startup in a lot of ways, and I think the way that I've been most impressed by Cluj is in the people. And first off, you start with a very, very strong education system, and particularly in science, technology, engineering, and maths. The skill set here is absolutely outstanding, and I think you talk to people around Techsylvania here today, and there's clearly a huge amount of talent, and so that's a really great building block to start with. I think there's also a lot of passion for building things and for creating something and being original and innovative and taking risks and pushing things forward. I think there's definitely a flip side though, and over the last day and a half, I think so many of the presenters have talked about machine learning and how this is the future and how X% of companies will require machine learning by 2020 or 2025 or whatever the statistic happens to be. The problem is there's not a huge amount of experience in machine learning in Cluj, and I would suspect in Romania. If I can try and prove my point, can you put your hand up if you've worked in machine learning for at least 3 months? I can see. Okay, 10? Yeah. I would love to talk to all of you people that just put your hand up after this. But to that point, like if the future is machine learning, then it's critical that there is that skill set and that tool to build that sort of company here. And one of the benefits we have with our London team is that if we can't find a machine learning engineer in London, we can talk to someone and we can convince them to move from Brazil or from Malaysia or wherever else to London. Whereas I think to try and convince someone to move to Cluj to join your startup is going to be a lot harder.
Although I would actually disagree a little bit about finding talent here for machine learning and AI. Our company and our product, basically, we pretty much developed this algorithm that helps increasing publishers' revenue in more than 30% versus our competitors. And that was actually developed by some data scientists that graduated here in Cluj, who joined our company and helped us innovate it. So I do think that you can find this talent here.
Okay, so these people that you found, did they graduate university? Were they able to do a master's in machine learning or a master's in data science, or were they self-taught afterwards?
Self-taught.
Yeah, exactly. So we're doing really well at disagreeing, but sharing a microphone. I think fundamentally this is a really good point, that there is the skill set, there is the talent, and there is the drive and ambition for people to do that. But if it relies on everyone being self-taught, then that is going to be somewhat of a limiting factor.
Yeah. And I agree with that. And you know what? Again, one of the things that we always talk about is the talent in the city, and I think we can attribute this talent to the great universities that the city have. And the mayor spoke yesterday about investing more in university and so on. But at the end of the day, it's also the responsibility of us, the private sector, to drive that. And I think if we do things like cooperate together with the universities and build programs for students so they can get real-life job training while they are studying, while they are like still in college, I think we can equip them with this knowledge so they can do that when they join the workforce later on. Would you agree?
So let's talk about the services sector. From a GDP perspective, 64% of the GDP is related to services here, while only 42% of the labor force is employed in the services sector, which can mean a lot of things. It can mean software development, it can be services in the hotel industry, it can mean a lot of different things. But what does Romania need to do to move higher up the value chain in developing products that get better valuations, that have more successful exits? What's your feedback on that aspect? So what do we need to do here to go from less of services and more to product development, product creation?
What does Romania need to do? So I'm generally a huge skeptic of, state interventions. So I don't think Romania should do something per se.
Okay.
What I believe they should empower entrepreneurship. They should empower education. They should start with the educational system. But I don't believe in flooding a lot of money in, supporting schemes and subsidies and grants and stuff, which is what generally governments tend to do. But we should talk about entrepreneurship. We should talk about innovation. We should talk about not fearing failure, because failure is not bad. You learn a lot of stuff during failures. And this is still something that the societies in Eastern Europe in general, and maybe in Europe in general, still lack. So those are the things that I believe that the Prime Minister and the government and local governments should do, not throwing money at state VC funds and stuff.
I'll disagree slightly because what I saw, I've been following Lithuania, and what I saw what the government has done there, and I think it has been quite effective. I agree with you that it does start with the education system, but I think a lot can be done there in terms of creating technology transfer offices, accelerators, also the legal system, creating the patent transfers, and a very clear sort of path of how to take technology out of the university into a private company, as well as tax regulations. And in Lithuania, all R&D is tax deductible. Free tax zones, innovation zones, government sponsors accelerators. Now the government, I think they're trying to put in like a sovereign fund. We've seen that very successful in Singapore and Israel. Israel, I think, is a prime example of successful government intervention. So I think things like that can be quite helpful.
Can be. It always depends on execution. I've also seen pretty harmful state interventions if executed wrong. So it all comes down to the people. So
you create a set up the ecosystem and then back away. That's for sure. You can't overregulate.
Any other thoughts from either of you about?
The only other thing that I would add is less bureaucracy. It's like
less bureaucracy.
Less bureaucracy, definitely. It takes like 7 minutes to open a company in the US. I think it takes like 7 years to open it here or something like that.
I was going to say, one other thing Lithuania, again, done is a startup visa. I think, for example, like what you mentioned, moving the companies, you can move a company into Lithuania literally within a week from Belarus, other places, and they've done that. And I think that only attracts, talent and great companies to the country.
I think Moldova is doing the same thing. They just approved their startup visa, I think maybe last fall. So where do you see things going? What are some of the sectors that you're really interested in? Dave, Ondrej, do you want to share a little bit about one of your portfolio companies? Just give us a quick snippet about why.
Right. So I try to sort of stay away from the FOMO and the buzzwordy feelings of certain investors. So I can't tell you if it's AI or machine learning I'm interested in. I'm generally interested in outstanding founders, outstanding teams that have the passion of doing something spectacular, and I'm happy to back those. And I think in Central and Eastern Europe it has to be like that. So I see in Silicon Valley or in more developed ecosystems there are definitely funds that are focused on niches. They only do enterprise software. There are AI-centric but we can't do this in Central Europe because we don't have as much supply on the deal flow side. So what I can tell you that I will happily take a look at startups that are in the fields that have already been somewhat successful in the region. So, with Florin Talpaj being the first speaker this morning, I can tell you that I'm happy to take a look at anything in cybersecurity. Why? Because it's been proven that this region has world-class experts and world-class talent and the ability to build awesome companies. It's Bitdefender, it's Avast in the Czech Republic, who just went public in London. It's Asset in Slovakia. It's Kaspersky in Russia. So this region has been successful. So that's what I'm happy to look at. But seeing examples like UiPath came out of the blue. I am not aware of any other success in process automation pre-UiPath, right? So those things just happen. These are the outliers that venture capital usually tries to find.
Pleasant serendipity.
Yeah.
I know. Actually, my partner is very excited about self-driving cars, and we're actually seeing some companies doing that outside. And it's funny, I think last night we're sitting with our CTO, who is Romanian, and was like, "Okay, when we're gonna have self-driving cars in Cluj?" And he was like, "Did you see how the people drive here?" So, so I guess that's something that we'll have to see here.
The mayor of Cluj talked about green building technology, talked a lot about machine learning, talked about a number of different technologies. How can we bring together what's happening in the universities with what needs to happen or connect with the entrepreneurs, as in tech transfer offices and things like that? Anything you can suggest on how we can kind of make those connections much tighter?
Definitely. Again, it's up to us, the private sector, and all the business owner here in the audiences and around Cluj to work together on programs with universities and getting people to get an on-the-job experience. In our New York office, we have a partnership with Columbia University. When we have interns coming every summer, every winter, spend some time in the office, and I actually do a real-life, day-to-day work and joining us on the real things that we're doing, and I think that's a key.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that we do a similar thing in terms of offering internships and getting people to come in and have a look at what the real technology is that you can work with in industry. You know, MongoDB, Elasticsearch, distributed systems. This probably isn't something that people get as exposed to at university, and they really are the essential building blocks of the future.
So, Ruta, you've seen some companies here. You've done some deal screening. What's your perspective here on some of the entrepreneurs and the companies?
Yeah, I mean, I just sort of at the at the exploration stages, beginning stages, but there's definitely interesting ideas coming out of here. I think it's an exciting time to be here and to be an early investor. There's definitely, from financial perspective, you can get into these companies early and at I guess cheaper. I think it, as I mentioned before, it does need hands-on investment. I don't think you can be an investor where you just spread out some money and let them be. I think it's, a lot of these starting companies can really benefit from business experience and mentorship and guidance. And helping them, maybe access the market. Like some of the companies I met, they tend to maybe think smaller, think of Romania or adjacent markets, but really, I'd encourage you to think more globally. A lot of, even at the startup avalanche, I heard the companies and they're saying, well, we need $100,000, $200,000. Like, that's not going to get you far. Think big. Think, what if you got $3 million? What would that do for you? I think the speaker right before said, time is essential, time to market, so you got to be quick.
So the question to all of you then, Romania's got a great reputation for coders, hackers, developers, et cetera. What do you need to see developing in those potential entrepreneurs over the next couple years that sort of would potentially move more of your investments into Romania? Because we've heard talk about, a lot of great technical skills, but not necessarily on the business side, or as you said, thinking maybe locally or regionally rather than globally. What would you like to see in the entrepreneurs?
Well, I would agree with the bigger ambition. I have to see the big vision, big ambition, global ambition. Otherwise, I think, so as I said, I started coming here 12 years ago, and the progress that I've seen over the years is just incredible. It's awesome. And I think Romania now has everything that's needed. It's been mentioned that of course, the developer talent or the technical talent is here, the business talent not necessarily, which is logical, which is very, very logical. But business talent is the one that you actually can pretty easily attract to move over to Romania. surprisingly easily. If they see the right opportunity, they will move over to Cluj or Bucharest. So I don't lack anything. I just want to go out, talk to the founders, talk to the entrepreneurs, and find the right fit for me with grand vision, big ambition, the right people in place, and the right timing, because timing is key.
So is this a timing issue then with the ecosystem? It'll just keep going, and because you're saying you see
not as much with the ecosystem, but with the startup itself. So in the startup, we need to see the right time to market, right? We need to see the momentum, the demand in the market.
Is this the right time to do this company and this technology?
Yeah.
And is
But
there a need?
Ecosystem, I think, is very healthy. I mean,
Great.
take a look at Techsylvania conference with 2,000 people coming over from Cluj and Sibiu and Brasov, and it's great energy. So I don't lack anything. I'll be coming back.
I disagree with Ondrej. There's a
Love
lot of
that.
things I lack. So I think there's, in terms of the skill set that you need to build to build a startup and build a company and to have access to the skill set across a wide range of technologies, there are a number of areas where there's not enough people to go around. And so I'm talking about things like, we've already mentioned machine learning, and if anyone goes out there and studies machine learning, you will be so valuable to so many companies. DevOps is more emerging. It's starting to get there in Cluj, but particularly DevOps with experience in cloud technologies. And I think the other area that we've really struggled with is, I think something like 50% of developers in Cluj are based on Java. And for us, so our primary language is Python. And so we sometimes struggle to find people with sufficient experience in Python. And Python is sometimes seen as a new language, and it really isn't a new language. It's been around for quite a while now. But if you're looking for a team leader or a senior software engineer that has that sufficient skill set, and I guess the battle wounds of going face-to-face with Python over enough years, then that can be sometimes difficult to find.
First of all, we are hiring for machine learning and DevOps.
So all you guys
Hands off,
raised
they're
your
mine.
hand. You got to talk to these two guys.
I personally would love to see more women in tech, and more particular, women take more leadership roles and becoming VP R&Ds and CTO and CEO and general managers of the companies here. I believe that it creates a great balance, diversity, a good and successful culture for the company.
No, I think I agree with everything has been said, and I'm not sure what else I can add.
Okay, we have about a minute left. So if someone came to you, well, you think everything's perfect right now. So, but if someone came to you with a particular company in a specific field, and you had the right global vision and the right entrepreneur, would you invest today?
In Romania?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
100%.
100%.
Why not?
Why not?
Yeah, today.
Okay, last question. Any words of wisdom, any guidance or advice? You guys are all global investors. Anything for the ecosystem you want to share while we wrap up this panel with respect to the entrepreneurs and the founders?
Don't fear failure. Go out and give it a try. Give it 100%.
Nice.
Do something worthwhile. Like, as software engineers, as developers, we are living in a golden age where our skill set is in very high demand. You get to choose what problem it is that you're working on, what problem you're trying to solve. Make sure that you're doing something that satisfies you, that you consider worthwhile, that you find fulfilling. Don't go to work just to earn money. Go and do something that, is really critical and really important.
So make it matter.
Absolutely.
David?
Yeah. I would just say, people here in Cruise, like keep doing what you're doing because like they're doing the right thing.
Excellent.
I mean, I think it's an exciting time to be here from entrepreneurship perspective and investor perspective. It's I think with challenges come opportunities. So I think challenges breed creativity instead of complacency. So think big, think bold. Don't be afraid to fail, and go for it.
Well, thank you very much, Ruta, David, Luke, Ondrej. Ladies and gentlemen, please give them a big hand.
Thank you.